Hello everyone, and welcome to my personal project. For my personal project, I decided to focus on basketball, and more specifically, perfecting the three-point shot in basketball. After doing so, I created two goals, my learning goal and my product goal. For my learning goal, I decided that I wanted to become a greater overall three-point shooter. In order to see my improvement, I specified my three-point shooting into four main parts, including shooting more efficiently, which I used as shooting wide open three-point shots from the 5 spots on the court, including the top, the 2 wings, and the 2 corners. Being able to shoot from a further distance, shooting more efficiently under a contest, from a defender or under pressure, and being able to use evasive moves to get myself open for a three-point shot. For my product goal, I wanted to help others improve their three-point shooting as well. So, I decided to make a video to do so, which happens to be the video that you're watching right now. After creating my goals and doing further work and research, it was time for me to film my video. And for this, I created a simple plan. My plan had 4 steps. Step 1 was just a 10-minute warm-up for me to get adjusted to the ball, to the court, and to my shooting. This could also be used to simulate the quick warm-ups players get before games. And please note that I had not played basketball for around 1 week before filming this video. Step 2 was to immediately film my recorded results attempt, which would be my first attempt, which included the 4 main parts I mentioned before in my goals slide. This could also be used to simulate the games that players play after their warm-up if they had not practiced before the original warm-up or any day prior. For all except one of the parts, I would shoot, as seen on the diagram, 5 shots from each of the 5 spots, so spots 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, starting from the right corner, which is spot 1, shooting 5 from that spot, and moving clockwise, shooting 5 shots from each spot until I finished on the left corner, which is spot 5. For my deep shots, I would shoot a few steps further from spots 2 and 4, similar to spots A and B in this diagram, except they were closer to the sidelines, and for those of you who know basketball, a few steps behind the hash mark on each sideline. Once I finished shooting and I recorded my stats for step 3, I would show and complete around 8 drills that can be used to help you improve in all of these parts. Finally, for step 4, I would do the exact same as step 2 and record my results once more. However, these results would reflect my improvement from my drills, and I would then compare them to my first attempt. You would be able then to see, if you use this training plan, how it would affect your three-point shooting in-game compared to with minimal 10-minute warm-up before a game like everyone does, or more focused drills that help you improve and become more efficient. Now that I have identified my project, goals, and plan, without further ado, let's get straight into it. As I mentioned before, I started off with my 10-minute warm-up. This was an all-around warm-up that didn't really focus on any one point except getting the feel for the game again. It also got my heart rate up and included a bit of stretching to prepare me for my shooting. When you do this warm-up, make sure that it isn't too long, but also adjusts you to your game and your shot. This warm-up will also help you be more efficient in your first attempt rather than just getting straight into the gym and shooting off the bat. I'll take this time to mention that you can adopt this video in 2 ways. The first being as a one-time thing before a game, which will help you improve for that game specifically in your three-point shooting efficiency by a decent amount. However, for those of you that want to greatly improve your three-point shooting over a long period of time or long term, you can adopt this training weekly or every specific amount of time to help you improve substantially and become a much better three-point shooter overall. If you are to do this, you can exclude one or even both of the attempts and just adopt the warm-up and the drills instead of taking much longer to do both the first and final attempt. However, if you are only going to use this video for one specific game, I would suggest using at least one attempt. I would recommend the first attempt, and then with your second or final attempt being your game. After the warm-up, you should start with your first attempt immediately, as I have done. Your first part of your first attempt should be the wide open shots with 5 from each of the 5 spots, as it is the easiest one out of the 4 main parts. For my first attempt on the wide open shots, I made a total of 6 shots out of the 25. Don't worry, we'll calculate the percentages and the efficiency at the end of the video. I made 1 from the first spot, 2 from the second, none from the third, 1 from the fourth, and 2 from the fifth. My form was also a little bit off, and my confidence became worse as I missed many of my shots. After doing the wide open shots, I moved on to the deep shots, shooting 10 shots for both of the spots. Surprisingly, I made 2 shots from each spot, and my confidence didn't go down as I knew that these shots were hard shots to make, considering how far from the basket they were. However, I was very inconsistent when shooting, and I was not using my leg strength enough to power my shots, but more my hand strength, which may have resulted in a worse shooting form and could be a reason to the inconsistency of my made shots in this attempt. Then I moved on to the contested shots, which are the second hardest type of shot out of the 4. For the fake defender, I made him a bit taller than me with his hands up, standing 5 lengths of my feet one after the other away from the three-point line. This would simulate quite a difficult contest to make a shot out of, but not an impossible one. When looking back at my attempt, I shot very inefficiently, making only 4 out of the 25 shots that I took, with 2 made on the first spot, 1 on the third, and 1 on the fifth. I think that this was greatly impacted by my lack of confidence. I was missing many shots, especially at the beginning, and this brought my confidence down. It also makes you overthink, and it makes you think of things like, well, this is basically just the same as an open shot. There's no affecting factor to it. You get to take your time and shoot the shot. There's just something standing in front of you, so you should be making the exact same amount as open shots. However, this was not the case, as a contest by a defender was affecting my efficiency. So those are things that make you overthink. And then when you overthink while shooting, it can also make you overthink about your shooting form and your shot overall, which just makes you miss more of your shots as you make mistakes trying to fix what your shot is, even though your shot might be okay. This attempt, as I mentioned before, can be used to simulate the real game situation with only a little bit of practice before. And as you can see, without any major training or practice before the game and just that 10-minute warm-up, a few misses can really affect your shooting in a game. Just like you can see here in this video, I have very bad efficiency, and my confidence is dropping dramatically, which is making me miss more and more shots in the game. This is also affecting people who are not as confident in their shot or maybe scared to take shots in a game. This is a very common trait within basketball players, and I would say that I'm also affected by this, where I'm scared to take some shots in the game, even though it's a smart shot or a good shot to take. I'm scared to take it because I'm always thinking, oh, what if I miss? Or, oh, what if I make a mistake? And what will happen? And this kind of thing with the confidence being affected can greatly change or impact the way you play in a game. So for players, when they don't have much practice before a game, it can really affect how they play in the game. But if you practice and do drills before the game, or practice and do drills weekly, your confidence in your own shot will rise. Also making you want to take more shots because you have more confidence in your shots, and also not letting your confidence drop when you miss, and making your confidence at the start of the game be much higher than what it was before you do any drills or training, which will then make you more efficient in games. For the last part of the first attempt, I did the evasive moves and dribbles to get open for the three-point shot. My first shot out of the 5 would be a pivot to a pullback for the 3. My second would be a simple step back. My third would be a dribble pull-up for spots 2, 3, and 4, and a dribble pullback for steps 1 and 5. My fourth shot out of the 5 would be a fake shot into a three-point shot, and my fifth shot for each spot would be a snatchback crossover into the three-pointer. As I predicted, this was the hardest out of all the 4 types, and it was also very challenging for me to stay balanced whilst also staying focused on my shot rather than the dribble or the move. I made 4 out of the 25, with 1 in each spot except the third, where I made 0. 2 of them were the last shot out of the spot, 1 was the third shot in that spot, and 1 was the 5th. After completing the first attempt, it was time to do the drills and training. My first drill focused mostly on balance, using my legs correctly when shooting, and focusing on my shot. For this drill, I would start with the ball at the three-point line. I'd pass it to myself, and then catch it and be ready in a shooting position. After doing so, I would jump 180 degrees to face the opposite side of the basket. And once I landed, I would do this again and face the basket. I would then have to shoot the ball without adjusting myself to make sure that my balance and my shooting form is good and correct. Once I completed this, I would shoot the basketball and try to improve on my shooting form, my balance, and possibly, if I had enough time, my efficiency. My second drill focused on powering my shots with my legs and using my knees and bending them when shooting. This drill is also used to help improve my accuracy and shooting form when shooting from long distance. For this drill, I would start with the ball, take 1 dribble, and then use power from my legs by bending my knees to launch the ball in the air as high as I could while still having a good shooting form. I would also try to make sure that the ball landed on a specific line in front of me that I chose when it hit the ground, so this could improve my accuracy when shooting the deep shots. The next drill is used primarily to improve when shooting under a contest. For this drill, I would start with the ball on a specific line and pass it to myself. Then I would close my eyes once I caught the ball and execute my normal shot. Once the ball left my hands, I would reopen my eyes and look how far wide the ball had landed from my starting line. Then I would go back to the start of the drill where I'd started on the line, and I would make adjustments to my shot to be more accurate when shooting contested shots. Drill 4 focused once again on accuracy when shooting contested shots. For this drill, I would start a few steps to the side of the fake defender and execute a normal shot. I would look at how far away from me the ball landed and then move in front of the fake defender. I would do the exact same thing again and try to make the ball land at the same distance as the first uncontested shot. If I was way off target on the contested shot, I would try the same shot again before starting from the beginning of the drill, trying to make myself used to shooting under a contest. My fifth drill focused on balance when shooting, focusing on my shot, and executing a good shot after an evasive move. This drill was an extremely simple but useful drill that really helped me out when shooting these kinds of shots. I started by choosing a line on the court and selecting a specific point on that line. Then I would back up and execute my evasive move, trying to end up in a good shooting position on the point and just behind the line that I had chosen. My first attempt for each evasive move was trying to make sure that when I finished a move, I landed in the correct position with a good balance and ended up with a good form. Then, my second attempt for each evasive move would be trying to not focus on the line and the point on the court, but rather my shot. And then, after I'd shot my shot for the second attempt on each evasive move, I would look where I had landed to make sure that I was in the correct position. All of this together helped me a lot with my balance, my precision when shooting after an evasive move, and my shooting form for this as well. Next up was a drill that focused more on personal improvement. I realized that many of my shots from directly in front of the basket in my first attempt were missing. So, for this drill, I started right in front of the basket, only one step away from it. Then, I would shoot with the correct shooting form, and I would move one step back or one step further after every make. This is personal for each person for which spot on the court this is, so make sure that you select your own most challenging spot. Also, feel free to try and score from the same distance twice if you feel like you are struggling from this distance or any distance that is further away. Drill 7 focused once again on my balance and use of my legs when shooting. For this drill, I would start on the sideline, pass it to myself, catch the ball and land in a ready and bent knees shooting position. Then I would execute my shot. Once I completed this a few times, I would do the same but only land on one leg, switching every time from the left leg to the right leg, but making sure that it's done correctly for each leg, to make sure that both of my legs were in a correct shooting position when I was shooting the ball. The key to this drill is to take your time and ensure that you are doing everything correctly. My final drill was very simple but effective. I would start anywhere behind the 3-point line and dribble very low and close to the ground. Then, when I was ready, I would quickly pick up the ball and try to make the shot. This could also help you in games if someone gives you a low pass when you are open for a 3-point shot. This is a much harder shot to make normally, as a low pass also takes longer for you to shoot, but also is not normal to your regular shooting form. But this drill helps you get used to that type of shot as well. Before doing my final attempt, I took a short break and then I did a similar warm-up to the first warm-up before I did my first attempt, except it was only 5 minutes. Then it was time for my final attempt. Now I will quickly show you my second attempt. As with the first attempt, I started with the wide open shots. I saw an immediate improvement in my shooting, making a total of 10 out of the 25 open shots. Then I moved on to the deep shots, where I was much more consistent and I made almost 2 times the amount of shots compared to the first attempt. After that, it was time to attempt the contested shots. And once again, I saw a major improvement as I almost scored 2 shots from each of the 5 spots. Finally, I attempted the shots after the evasive moves, where once again I had improved. Now that I've completed the first attempt, the drills and the training, and I've completed the second attempt, let's recap. First off, let's look at my first attempt. When looking at my efficiency and which shots I made on my first attempt, you can clearly see that I wasn't efficient at all, and I struggled in many places. An example of this can be seen where I only made 1 shot out of all the shots in all the different types of shots that I took from spot 3. We can also see that my shooting is streaky and inconsistent, as I almost never made 2 shots in a row. The shooting percentage gives us even more information. It shows that my shooting percentage was terrible, with many spots at 0%, and the rest being on the very low side. This is summarized by my average 3-point shooting percentages. In order to see how efficient I was, I did some extra research and found out that shooting anything under 30% from 3 is classified as being a bad shooter, around 35% being average, and anything north of 40% being excellent, and you would be regarded as one of the most efficient 3-point shooting players in the game. And, as you can see, my averages for each type of shot show that, according to my reference, my shooting efficiency and skill was awful, as my overall shooting percentage on my first attempt was a very low 19% from 3. But now, let's look at the bright side. When looking at my efficiency and made shots on my final attempt, after all the drills, we can see that I was much more efficient and consistent, as well as improving on my weaker spots, like spot 3, where I ended up making 3 more shots compared to attempt 1. To finish off, let's look at my shooting percentage on my final attempt. Here, my shooting percentages are much improved, with only 1 spot on 1 type of shot at 0%. There are many more high percentage spots and even 1 spot at 60%. My improvement is highlighted by my average 3-point shooting percentages on this attempt. We can see that I had an overall 16% improvement in my wide open shots, a 15% improvement in my deep shots, a 20% improvement in my contested shots, and an 8% improvement in my shots after an evasive move when comparing to my first attempt. This is outstanding considering how a small change in percentage, for example 30% being a relatively bad shooter and 40% being an amazing shooter, has a big effect on how good of a shooter you are and classified to be. To conclude, I've calculated that my overall 3-point shooting percentage in my final attempt is 34%. This isn't amazing and classifies me as an average 3-point shooter. However, this is incredible when comparing it to my first attempt, as I have improved by a total of 15% overall when shooting 3s. I'm very proud of my improvements, especially because of how much I've improved. I'm also confident that if I continue to practice and use these drills, I will reach the 40% quite soon and possibly go even higher to become an amazing 3-point shooter. Before ending this video, I'd like to say thank you for watching, and if you use this video to improve, I hope it benefits you like it has for me. Thank you.